Hey everybody, welcome back to Uber Stories, and this is going to be a slightly different episode, special report type of thing, breaking news. Um, I have grounded myself from Uber for a period of time. Why is that, you might ask? Well, here in St. Louis, we're a little bit backwards, and the city of St. Louis, and particularly the MTC, the Metropolitan Taxi Commission, yesterday filed a complaint, a lawsuit seeking a restraining order against Uber to shut them down so that they can't operate in the city of St. Louis. The reasons for this is they cite a Missouri state law, one that's particular to St. Louis County and St. Louis City in general. I want to make sure I get this right, so I'm going to read my cheat sheet here. They're saying the state law requires fingerprint checks of all drivers. It requires a doctor's note saying that the driver is fit to drive, and the vehicle must be inspected, and you must have a special chauffeur's license. It's a particular class of driver's license, so you must have that in order to operate a vehicle, or what they call a vehicle for hire, to get a vehicle for hire permit. So that's what they're fighting for. Uber's response on this is, you're the only city in the country who's requiring this. It's an onerous requirement. It's also a pretty outdated one, to tell you the truth. A fingerprint database may have been started in what, the 20s, the 30s? And what exactly is that going to find? Do this. Google fingerprint database, and you'll find, top of the news, by the way, for fingerprint databases, one's been hacked and all those identities are now out into the wild. Not exactly a very, up-to-date and robust system, whereas they did background checks on me when I signed up for Uber, and they used my social security number, they used my driver's license number and things like this, and they looked up a great number of things, and I came through clear. But there's systems out there that use this, and they're pretty good, pretty accurate, and they'll get you as much, if not more, than the fingerprint search will. And I actually challenge them and say, what are you going to find in the fingerprint database that you're not going to find here? Please cite examples. And I'll wait for that. You can pause. Please comment, by the way. If you know of something in the fingerprint database that's not going to show up in any of these other databases that they're searching, let me know. Please cite your examples, by the way. Don't just go, well, you don't know anything, and storm off in a huff. I want to, anybody that comments in here, by the way, I'm going to require that you back up what you say. That's, I'm going to, so you do too, right? Do your research, do your homework. Anyhow, so part of this lawsuit, this is going to be settled on Tuesday, by the way. At least the first, not settled. It's going to have its first hearing on Tuesday, to where we'll determine whether or not there's going to be a restraining order that's granted to the MTA to say, yes, you may, Uber may not operate in St. Louis until this is resolved, or something like that. They're going to have a restraining order on that. I wrote Uber about this, and I put in my subject line, I said, is this legal? Question mark, right? I'm out there driving. Is this legal? That's a pretty valid question for a driver, wouldn't you think? The response I got didn't answer that question, but said we're recommending that drivers, not drive in St. Louis until this kind of is resolved. Now, I don't have, I'll post that actually as the actual quote. I'll put in the description below. How's that? So that you guys can read it for yourselves. And the way I took it was, okay, this isn't exactly on the up and up, and I'm not going to take the hit for this. I asked specifically in my email, because they had, in this complaint, they had also listed 19 drivers that the MTA found in sort of a catfish sting operation, which was really shady. What they did is they called for an Uber ride, and whoever showed up, they got their name and put them on the complaint as well. So now they're listed and they're part of a court case, the drivers. The drivers themselves, per ride, can be fined $200 per ride. So I asked Uber, if I'm one of these drivers that gets catfished in and fined $200, are you going to cover that for me? Right? I'm doing business on behalf of your company. This is a company expense. It's kind of like having a cell phone that the company pays for. You're going to pay for that cell phone bill, not me. If I get a ticket or a $200 fine as a result of doing work on behalf of your company, you should pay for that, right? Didn't get a response yes or no on that, which tells me my car stays parked until you can give me a response yes or no. Sorry, it's a business, man. I'm an independent contractor, and I will not take the risk for your multi-billion-dollar company. Because yes, I read the news. I know how much Uber is valued, and I'm not going to take the hit at $200 a pop while you guys sort your legal differences out in court. I'll stay in the garage. Thank you very much. Nothing against Uber. I'm just saying I'm not prepared to take that risk on your behalf. So there you go. That's my take on the situation. By the way, Lyft, you may have heard of Lyft, Lyft, a similar rideshare company, had a similar run-in with the MTA last year here in St. Louis, and they were shut down, or at least told they couldn't operate here. Lyft said, fine. They pulled up the stakes and they took their business elsewhere. Okay. So that said, you might ask if you're on, I'll look at this from a couple of perspectives. Let's say from the perspective of the MTA and the state of Missouri, who has these laws in place. What's so bad about getting a fingerprint check or any of this stuff? My response is nothing's so bad. I'm happy to go in and get a fingerprint check. The question is why would I? It's such a manual, analog process, and we don't live in an analog world anymore. I'll do it. It just seems like a very antiquated process to satisfy a requirement that was probably written. I'll have to look that up. Probably written back in the 1930s. Okay. The doctor's note? Really? Doctor's note? Really? Okay. The vehicle inspection, I just had my vehicle inspected because I just registered it in the state of Missouri, so that should count. I'll get my vehicle, the emissions and the safety has already been checked and it's valid and it was used to register my car, so I'd call that one done. The chauffeur's license, horseshit. You're trying to tell me that driving somebody in my car is a specialized job, meaning it's a skilled job? Driving my car around town is not a skilled job any more than a NASCAR driver is an athlete for being able to drive to the left continuously. That's not an athlete, sorry, and this is not a skilled job. Any parent who has driven their kid to soccer practice, that is not a skilled job. That is just driving your kid around town. There's no difference in doing that and driving the businessman to the airport. Don't flatter yourselves, guys. This is not that skilled of a job. I'm following a GPS for directions, for crying out loud. I'm going from point A to point B, dropping you off, and the app's doing all the work. It's not a skilled job. Really? Get over yourselves, folks. That said, so yes, that's the take on whether or not I would submit to any of this extra stuff. Some of the stuff I think is ridiculous, as I've just stated. Other things, fine, I'll go in for a fingerprint check. Make it convenient for me, by the way. Don't make me drive to BF Brazil to get a fingerprint check. Make it convenient, and I'll go do that. Easy enough, right? And then, on perspective of the driver, my perspective on this is I'm an independent contractor. I do this on my time. And when I'm driving, I am doing it as a representative of your company. Therefore, your company should assume some risk on that. I'm assuming risk in putting my car and my car insurance and my person and everything else up. What if a drunk person gets in my car and pukes all over the back? Well, yes, Uber covers the cost of cleaning my car up and everything. I run the risk of picking up a drunk person and having him puke in my car. Okay, so there's risk and risk there. All right, same scenario. I'm out driving a passenger and I get pulled over for violating this city ordinance and fined $200 for driving that passenger around. I don't see any difference between that and the customer puking in my car. Uber should cover the $200. If Uber is not willing to cover the $200, then we have a problem and my car stays parked until that problem is resolved. So as of now, my car is parked and I'm not driving for Uber until I hear what goes on Tuesday. Maybe on Tuesday everything's fine and we proceed. If it's not fine, car stays parked. So anyway, that's the update on the situation here. I think St. Louis, just as a personal opinion, I think St. Louis needs to get over itself. It's the last major metropolitan area in the country, in the United States, certainly one of the last ones in the world to get Uber service. And quite frankly, 90% of my riders have been from out of town, had no idea that St. Louis was the last to get Uber. They just pulled out their phone and hit the Uber button and expected a cab to show up. Yesterday, the day this was all announced, the day this hit the press, I had 2 riders, unprovoked, I didn't bring this up, that 2 riders that said, we tried calling a cab and they said it was going to be either A, they couldn't pick them up because it was going to take too long, or B, it was going to take longer than 45 minutes to come get them. So we pulled out Uber, we hit the button, you were here in less than 10 minutes. And I looked back and I said, okay, so that's that would be the same cab companies that are saying that I'm taking business away from them? Is that what's going on there? They're threatened by me? It's like they can't even provide the service, for crying out loud. They need companies like Uber in this space to pick up the slack, right? If someone needs a cab, they're going to call a cab. If someone needs to, if they have 4 people with luggage and they're going to the airport, you need to call a van for that. Cabs have vans. That's fine. I can carry 2 to 3 people comfortably. Great, let's do that. That's what Uber's for. So anyway, this is a longer video than most, but I had a lot to cover, and probably some things that you're thinking about as well. Maybe you want to comment for me. Leave that comment down in the comments below, or send it to this email address, right, lower third, email, go, right there. And I'd be happy to hear from you. And, you know, if you comment, I'll respond to it either in the comments below or in a future video. So stay tuned. I will put another video up on Tuesday once I hear some more news. All right? Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you later on Uber Stories. Peace.